Hi there, I'm Maddie, Customer Care Specialist here at Instant, and today I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the Instant Pot Rio. This is the Rio. Rio stands for Revolutionary, Innovative, One Pot Wonder. This is the newest member of our Instant Pot family. This sleek and modern pot allows you to make quick and easy meals using 70% less of the time and saving 60% energy in comparison to a traditional oven. In this video, I'm going to show you everything that comes in the box, how to run a cooking program, how to clean your pot, and a few extra tips just to keep things running smoothly. Let's get started. So what comes in the box? The Rio comes with a cooking tray or trivet, as you can see here. And next is the pot itself. We're going to go over all the different features, starting with this front panel. As you can see here, we have our 13 different smart cooking features. We'll go over those more in our cooking section. Then we have our start, delay start, and cancel buttons. And finally, in the center, you can see we have 3 LED lights. These are our cooking process indicators. They'll tell you where you are in the cooking process. You can be preheating, cooking, or keeping warm. Moving on to the lid, we have our big handle up here. This is the only place you're going to want to grab the pot when you're cooking, as these 2 metal sections will heat up. Next, on the lid, we have 3 different things to see. First is our steam release valve. This is where the steam comes out when you release pressure. Next is arguably my favorite part, the easy steam release button. Now you just push this and the pot does all the work for you. Lastly, we have our float valve. Now this valve will be down right now when we're not cooking and there's no pressure, but once your pot comes to pressure, it'll pop up like that. On the side of the lid, we have these 2 lid fins. Now these are great if you're doing quick sauteing or stirring and you need to get your lid out of the way. You can pick it up and it pops right onto the unit like that. This is great to save space on the counter and you always know where your lid is. Moving on to the inside of the lid, we can see the other side of our float valve and the other side of the steam release. Now the steam release also has an anti-block shield. This keeps food from getting out of your pot when you release the steam. Next on the inside is the most important part of the lid, and that's all around the edge. That's the sealing ring. If you don't have the sealing ring in your pot, it won't be able to pressurize and you won't cook your food. We'll go over all these small parts and how to remove them more in our cleaning section. Now, if you're someone like me who has trouble putting the lid on right every time, don't worry. There's an arrow right here on the front and it lines up perfectly with this little notch on the pot, so you can do it perfect every time. Moving to the inside of the pot, we have our inner pot. Now you always want to use this when you're cooking. No matter what you're making, your food needs to go in the inner pot, and the inner pot goes in the cooker base. You can see on the inside of the inner pot, there's a max fill line. You want to make sure that your food and your liquid is always below that line. If it's not, your pot will be overfilled and it'll have trouble coming to pressure. You can also see there's a halfway line. Now, if you're cooking starchy foods like pasta, they might foam up and come out of the steam release, so you want to make sure starchy foods are always below the halfway line. Moving on to the inside of the cooker base, this is my favorite part. There are these 4 little dots, and these are anti-spin dots. So if you're stirring or sauteing, your pot's not going to wiggle around. It'll stay right in place. Moving on to the back of the pot, there are 2 more things to see. First is our power cord. Now this is detachable, so if you're ever having trouble with power issues or your pot staying on, you'll want to check that your power cord is securely plugged in to both the Instant Pot and your wall outlet. And finally is our condensation collector cup. It collects condensation while you're cooking, and it pulls off just like this, and then you pop it right back on. Now I'm going to run through all the different cooking functions. The first is pressure cook, which we're going to demonstrate today by making hard-boiled eggs. The next function is soup and broth, meat and stew, which is great for making ribs, for example. Beans and chili, rice, saute, which is great for things like onions and veggies. Steam, this is great for things like broccoli or dumplings. Multigrain, poultry, this is great for options like shredded chicken. Egg, yogurt, slow cook. This is another great option for cooking meats. We also have controls like delay start, keep warm, cancel, and start. Now we're going to run through a cooking function. Now we do have an egg-specific function, but for the purpose of demonstration, we're going to show you how to hard boil eggs using pressure cook. So the first thing we want to do is hit pressure cook. And then we're going to add our rack here. Now next, and this is the most important step when you're pressure cooking, we're going to add our water. So this is a 6-quart Instant Pot, which means the minimum amount of water that we need is 1.5 cups or 12 ounces. So we'll pour that in now. And now we can add our eggs. And we're just going to stack these in here around on the trivet. Now you can fit more than 6 eggs if you want, but just for today, we're gonna do 6. All right, now these are all in here, we're ready to go. We're gonna put on our lid. We're gonna make sure that the vent is set to seal, and then we're gonna set our time to 5. Then we'll hit start. Now you'll see the cooking process indicator light up to preheating while the pot preheats, and then once the pressure has been built, it'll move to cooking. Now we're doing the 5-5-5 method for these eggs, which means we're going to cook for 5 minutes, and then we're going to keep warm for 5 minutes. And once that's done, we'll release the pressure and we'll put them in our ice bath for 5 minutes. Even when the pot is set to seal, you'll still see a little bit of steam coming out as it comes up to pressure, and that's totally normal. Once your pot has reached pressure, your silver float valve will pop up. All right, now our pot is done cooking, so we're going to leave the vent on seal for 5 minutes to naturally release pressure, and after 5 minutes has passed, we're going to push it ourselves to release the remaining pressure. And the pot will be on keep warm during this time. All right, it's been 5 minutes, so now we're going to release the rest of our pressure if there's any remaining. And you'll hear it slowly start to stop, and then our float valve just dropped down, which means it's no longer pressurized, so we can open the lid and see how our eggs are. And we're gonna pull our eggs out and put them in our ice bath. All right, now we'll let these sit for 5 minutes and then they'll be ready to peel and eat. All right, now that we're done cooking, I'm gonna show you how to clean everything. First, we're gonna go over how to remove all the small pieces on the lid. Starting with the pressure release, you just pull straight up and it'll pop off like that. And then we go to the underside and we have our float valve. So you just push this up with your finger on the other side, and there's a little gasket here that you pull off. And then you can just let it drop through the other side right into your hand. Then we also have our anti-block shield. Now you might need to get in there with your fingernails because it's a little tight when you first get it, but over time it will loosen up. You'll also want to remove your condensation collector cup like we showed earlier, and then the sealing ring. Now you just pull this out. There's a little divot in the sealing ring that goes into this little wire that's in the lid. So you just give it a tug and you're good to go. All these small pieces, plus the lid, plus the inner pot, are all dishwasher safe, but you can also wash them by hand with warm soapy water. Before you cook with your pot for the very first time, when you first open it up, you're going to want to clean the inner pot, the lid, and any accessories with warm soapy water. We also recommend taking a damp cloth and wiping down the inside of the heating element. Your sealing ring will stretch out over time, so to keep your pot safe, we recommend you replace it every 12 to 18 months. If you notice it stretching out more or it's damaged, you should replace it right away. Now we're going to go over some troubleshooting tips for some common issues that you might encounter. If you get the burn message, don't panic. It just means that the food on the very bottom of your inner pot is heating up too quickly, or there might be food on the bottom of the inner pot on the inside. So all you need to do is hit cancel, wait for the pressure to release, open your lid, and check if you have enough liquid. If you don't, you can add some more liquid and stir around to the glaze. If that doesn't seem to be the issue, you can wait for the inner pot to cool, remove it, and make sure there's no food or debris on the bottom of it touching the heating element. If there's steam leaking out around the edge of your lid, it's likely that you forgot your sealing ring. This is also no big deal. All you need to do is turn off your Instant Pot, wait for it to depressurize, wait for everything to cool, and then open it up, add your sealing ring back in, pop the lid back on, and you can keep on cooking. Finally, some important safeguards to keep you and your pot safe while you're cooking. You never want to cover the steam release. This includes using diverters or covering it with a dish towel when you're releasing the steam. You also want to be careful not to touch this metal part on the top of the lid, as it will heat up when you're cooking. The next thing you don't want to do is move the pot when it's under pressure. So if you're cooking here and you need to move it over there, you'll have to wait until your pot has depressurized. We also recommend you never use your pot on the stove. If something happens and your stove turns on by accident, it could melt the bottom of the Instant Pot and then it wouldn't work anymore. One of the most important things to always check before you cook is to make sure that your sealing ring and the rubber gasket on the bottom of the float valve are both intact and they're in place. Another thing you don't want to do is overfill your pot. If your pot is overfilled, it will have trouble coming to pressure. For some foods, that's going to be at the fill line on the inner pot. For very starchy foods, that will be at the halfway line on the inner pot. One last tip about your sealing ring. If it starts to accumulate odors, you can clean it out by using 1 cup of water and 1 cup of white vinegar in your Instant Pot and running that on pressure cook for 5 to 10 minutes and then quick releasing the pressure. All right, we've reached the end. That's everything you need to know about the Instant Pot Rio. Got more questions? We'd love to help. Reach out to our customer care team through our website, instanthome.com. You can also reach us through our Facebook community or any of our other social media platforms. We'd also recommend you check out our Instant Brands Connect app to get more resources and recipes. Thanks for watching.